Sometimes, the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And welcome to the Back of the Range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 105. It's Thanksgiving week. I know that you all have many things to be thankful for this year, and I am no exception to that. It's been an incredible year for me, and I'm already looking forward to an amazing 2020. What am I thankful for this year, and where do I even start to rank them in order? It's impossible. First and foremost, I'm thankful for a great family, friends. I got health, I got a roof over my head, I got food on the table, and a couple bucks in my pocket. So that's first and foremost. But as far as the Back of the Range Golf podcast goes, here are a few things in no particular order that I'm incredibly thankful for. Spent a great week covering the Walker Cup at Royal Liverpool Golf Club. I got an inside the ropes view of the American team the entire week. Worked alongside my pal Dan McCoy, who made all those videos and photos look so good. And I was welcomed by the USGA, the R&A, Royal Liverpool the entire time that I was there. So special thanks to all the people at amateurgolf.com that made that week possible. Let's see, what else? I played golf at Pine Valley. Yes, I played the course. It was incredible. But the people that I was able to spend time with, that might have been more special. I played a round of golf with Chip Lutz, a former U.S. senior amateur champion. I had my pal Serge Hogue on the bag for me, who was on last week's episode. In case you missed that, you have to go back and listen to it. He caddies at Pine Valley and Seminole. Just an amazing person. You got to listen to his story. I also got to meet Jim Holtgreave, former Walker Cup captain. He was the first U.S. mid-amateur champion. Got to see him later on the Walker Cup. So one of those great experiences that you really cherish. You can't really pay it back in any way, so just be thankful you got to do it, and I really am very thankful for that experience. Quail Ridge Country Club is my home course in the summer down here at South Florida. They take great care of me and all of my friends, and they recently commemorated my 100th episode with a very nice plaque that hangs on the wall there. So lots of great memories there, lots of great people that take care of me whenever I'm there, so very thankful to them. The guests that take the time out of their schedules to chat with me each and every week, I'm absolutely blown away by the stories they share, the time they spend, their enthusiasm for amateur golf, their enthusiasm for this podcast. Almost every single one of them afterwards thanks me for having them on. Really, I'm the one thanking them because they share these great stories, and I think that's what draws people to the Back of the Range. Finally, really thankful for all the listeners. You know, this podcast continues to grow each and every week. The comments that come in from all over the country, all over the world, really, thanking me for doing this podcast. I should be thanking you, and that's what I'm doing right now. So I never thought this podcast would get this big and reach as many people as it has. So like I always say, if you keep listening, I'll keep doing the podcast. Your support is appreciated. Your feedback is always appreciated. So keep leaving reviews in Apple Podcast. I know I say it all the time, but it really does help. It really does mean a lot. And also, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and every previous episode is available at thebackoftherange.com. Once again, don't forget that Free Towel Tuesdays are back every Tuesday on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. You'll see a post just asking what your thoughts are, like this week. Like, hey, what are your golf traditions during Thanksgiving? What do you like to do on the weekend? Or do you just, feed your face and watch football? That's cool too. But leave some comments, tag some friends, and yeah, I want to send some more towels out to everyone so you can rock it on your golf bag whenever you do get out there on the golf course. So Thanksgiving week, can't not get this episode out. I've been putting it off, but you have to listen to this guest. You have to listen to this episode. Our guest this week is Brady Exber from Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, here's the thing about Brady. His amateur playing resume is more than enough to warrant his visit to the Back of the Range. He is a 9-time Southern Nevada Golf Association Player of the Year. He's a member of the Las Vegas Sports Hall of Fame, and he's won the British Senior Amateur as well as the Canadian Senior Amateur. If you want to Google him and see even more of what he's done on the golf course, go ahead. But be prepared to see multiple Player of the Year awards, multiple city and state amateur titles, it's a bit overwhelming. So the reason I'm highlighting his accomplishments now is because we didn't chat much about that on the episode, because there was so much more to get to. Brady's a humble guy that grew up in Las Vegas in a gaming family. Yeah, Brady grew up around some really interesting characters, and yeah, we definitely hit on that. We talked about his start in the game, some of his more memorable adventures on the golf course, and his lone experience refereeing a golf match. You do not want to miss that story because it's almost unbelievable. Another topic we hit on was his experience playing against the kids at the 2008 U.S. Amateur. Brady Exber made match play at the U.S. Am at the age of 52. So, speaking of being thankful, have to thank Ryan Chrysler at the Floridian for his assist on this episode. He put me together with Brady. You might see and hear more from Ryan on this podcast very soon, and congrats to him for being included in Golf Digest's list of the best teachers in the state of Florida. So let's get started. Thrilled to welcome golf's Mr. Las Vegas, Brady Exber, to the back of the range. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Ben. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you inviting me in to do this with you.
Well, this is I'm really excited about this episode. I love talking to the amateurs, and it seems like the stories I get from the senior amateurs really resonate with the entire listener base here at the back of the range. You know, I've spoken to Chip Lutz and McCoy and Elliott and just a lot of these guys, and you know, you have a lot of the same accomplishments, even additional ones to your resume than they do. But let's before we get into that, I got to ask you. So you're born and raised Vegas. So are you the Wayne Newton of Vegas amateur golf, or is Wayne Newton the Brady Exber of Vegas entertainment? I mean,
no, you know what? That's funny. By the way, Wayne Newton was very underrated.
And we're off. And we're off. Go ahead, Brady. I knew we were going to get into it real quick. And we're off. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no. Wayne, you know what?
No, I want you to tell a story about Wayne Newton. Hell yeah.
No, I don't know. All I know about Wayne Newton is I never wanted to go see him when I was a kid because he was kind of like a little nerdy, you know, and it was kind of nerdy if you went to that show versus, a different, like a Sinatra show.
Right,
Everybody
right.
wanted to go see Sinatra, of course, right? So I went to see Wayne Newton one time. I was on a date, and I went to see Wayne Newton, and he was fantastic.
There you go.
It's one of the best shows I've ever seen, actually, in Las Vegas. He was unbelievable. He could play all the instruments, singer, a real entertainer, got, connected with the audience. He was very good.
So Wayne Newton. So you're not. They're not on the same level, but it's pretty close. Anyone that looks up, that's listening right now, that looks up your name and accomplishments. I mean, I don't want to go through them all because it's embarrassing, Brady. I mean, nine-time Southern Nevada Golf Association Player of the Year. I mean, you've won, city amateurs and Nevada state amateurs and just all over the place. But talk to me a little bit about how someone gets into the game of golf in Las Vegas as a kid. I mean, I know we all go there as our golf trips and our buddy trips and bachelor parties and all that stuff. But what's it like growing up in Las Vegas back in the 50s and 60s?
Yeah. In the 60s. I was born here in 56. And it was a pretty small town back then. In the early 60s, there was less than 100,000 people here, and so it's a pretty small town. We do have a little bit of a golf background here. We had the first Tournament of Champions was here at the Desert Inn Country Club, and it was here for a while until they moved it to La Costa. So, and then we've had a tour event here, from the 60s. There was a little hiatus there for a little while, and then the Las Vegas Invitational came back, I think, in 1983. So we've got some, golf history with professional golf tournaments, and of course, for me, when I was a kid, in the early 60s, this is really funny, but the Los Angeles Dodgers really just moved to Los Angeles from New York.
Yeah.
And so they were brand new out here in the West, and all the kids, were all enthralled with the Dodgers. So we just wanted to play baseball. And how I got into golf was that my dad's, one of his best friends was a fella named Maury Wills, who played shortstop for the Dodgers.
Of course, I know that name.
So Maury was like, I used to call him Uncle Maury, and I would spend a lot of time with him. And of course, I'm thinking I'm going to be a baseball player, and I could hit and throw and good fielder, but I was a very slow runner. So Maury knew that I wasn't going to make it as a baseball player, even though I had like a partial scholarship is what I had to go to Pepperdine and play baseball there. But he knew I wasn't going to make it.
Sure.
So he tried to push me into golf, and he actually got me to play in the Pro-Am of the Los Angeles Open. And just by chance, I got paired up with Gary Player.
Oh gosh, here we go.
Now,
how old are you at the time?
Now I was 19.
Oh my gosh.
I was 19 years old, and I really wasn't much of a golfer at all. I play with my dad every once in a while. So I played with Gary Player, and the group behind us is Arnold Palmer. So there are thousands of people out watching these guys on Pro-Am Day. And I couldn't. Now, this is back in the days of wooden-headed drivers,
persimmons,
and old golf balls,
yeah,
right?
Everything's spinning and just blades, and
yeah. So I'm on the driving range. I can't get the driver in the air. I can't hit it in the air at all. So my dad goes over and he gets Gary Player to come over and watch me hit a ball. And Gary says, you might just want to take a 3-wood today off of every tee. Just don't even hit the driver. Just take a 3-wood. And so I remember I did that. And the first hole, it was at Riviera.
Okay.
So the first hole's at par 5. And it's an elevated tee, and I hit a 3-wood off the tee, and I got it down on the fairway. Well, then I hit another 3-wood, and I got it on the green in 2 on this par 5.
Off to the races.
No, Ben, you talk about a guy that, I'm off to the races, but so Gary Player comes over, and he's going to help me read the putt. Now, I'm such a novice that I'm looking at this putt, and it looks straight to me. And Gary Player says, this thing's going to break about 8 or 9 feet from right to left.
Oh,
and I looked at him and I said, yeah, I don't think so. And that was right. Okay. So he says, okay, well then just go ahead and put it straight.
Oh,
so
God.
right. So that was not my best move, but somehow I managed to 2-putt and then off to the races. But Gary Player was fantastic that day. Absolutely fantastic. And I think he really, he actually encouraged me to play golf. And, I had some talent in there. I guess I had some natural ability, I guess I should say. And, so he really encouraged me to do it. And so, my baseball career ended and I started to play a little golf, and that's how I got into it, really. So
you touched on your dad, and if you don't mind, I just have to ask. So your dad, Mel Exber, one of the pioneers of gaming in Vegas in the early 50s.
Right.
I'm not a big gambler, but when you hear phrases like a teaser bet or things like that, everyone seems to know what that is. Your dad invented this?
Yeah, that's correct.
Your dad invented the teaser bet.
Yes.
And then I think also, for people old enough to remember, it was a very historical game where the Vikings lineman Jim Marshall picked up a fumble and ran the wrong direction. Listen, Brady, we do our work over here. We have a team here that does all this research. But
wow.
Oh yeah, and by team it's
your team is on top of it.
So Jim Marshall, for anyone that remembers this, you'll see it on NFL films, you'll see it in like blooper videos. But he picks up the ball, runs in the wrong end zone, and anyway, that game is remembered for a lot of reasons, but why is that game kind of important with your family?
Well, so as the story goes, my dad was a bookmaker. I mean, that's just what he was. And so he had, he had clients that would bet, and I'm thinking of so many stories are hitting my head right now, but let's just start with this one. So my dad's on a losing streak, and anybody that does any betting or any athletic endeavor, you go in a slump, you get on a losing streak, it happens. And sometimes you just need something to break out of it, right? So my dad's really on this losing streak, and the game, as you've recalled it, is being played, and it's the Vikings against the 49ers, and my dad's losing this bet, and he can't stand it, so he can't watch it anymore. So he takes a walk, and at that time, it was in downtown Las Vegas. He was working at the Las Vegas Club, which is a place that he and his partners bought in 1961. And so he had to take a walk. So he starts walking, and he walks about 6 or 8 blocks down the street, and he turns around, he's coming back. Well, in the meantime, he never saw the play because he's on this walk. Well, one of the partners is watching the game and sees Jim Marshall run the ball back the other way and score for the other team.
Right.
Which
safety. Yeah.
Right. Scored for the other team, got my dad to win that bet on that game, and it just turned everything around for him.
Crazy.
And he got off the losing streak. He never saw the play. And as he was walking back to the hotel, one of the guys was out on the street saying, Mel, you won the game. He said, how can I win the game? And they explained what happened. Jim Marshall ran the ball back the other way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's,
so,
there's always someone that whenever you see these weird plays in sports, someone is probably benefiting and someone is getting hurt. And, yeah, glad to hear that has it's a staple in the history of your father's gaming career.
Well, you know what they say: every shot makes somebody happy.
There you
go. Every play makes somebody happy.
There you go. So growing up in Vegas and playing, and with the family business. So how did you get raised to? I'm assuming you're around some quote unquote, golf hustlers and professional gamblers and sharks. I mean, you're around that. How do you grow up and actually become an actual, properly functioning adult, and play the game? Like, how did you, I can't even imagine what kind of a childhood you had and growing up around the game where, forget about the fact you're in Vegas, but around golf, there's all sorts of gambling and strokes and
oh, yeah.
So how did you,
I appreciate your supposition that I'm a normal functioning adult.
I mean, I'm doing the best I can, Brady. Just hold it together. You'll be fine.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to go with it.
Okay.
You know what? I think, I was actually kind of shielded from that a little bit, because of my dad. I think he kind of shielded me somehow about that. And there's something about, and I don't know what it is, but there's something about the golf hustling scene that kind of turns me off.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of it, seeing it firsthand, I'd play and do a lot of practicing over at Las Vegas Country Club, which was notorious back in that day for golf hustling. And, when you talk about golf hustling, there's always somebody that's being taken advantage of. And I didn't ever like that. And so that's why I just didn't ever like the fact that, if I was going to be a golf hustler, that meant that I would have to take advantage of somebody. And that just is not really in my personality.
Yeah. No.
And I've seen it. You know, I've seen my friends do it. I've seen golf hustlers do it. You know, and back in that day, a bet would spring up out of absolutely nowhere sometimes. Two poker players, let's say, would get in an argument, and one guy would say, you know what, I'll bet you 25,000 I could beat you carrying my own bag walking backwards. That was the bet. Tom Fisher, I can't remember who the other fellow was, but that was the bet.
Okay.
25,000. Tom Fisher carried his bag and walked backwards. Unfortunately, it was in August and it was 110 degrees, and he didn't make it all the way around. So that didn't work out too good for him.
I'm assuming now, I mean, we're going to go back to a couple of other things. We're going to jump around a little bit, but since we're talking about bets
Sure.
and the craziness of these bets, I'd imagine that being in Vegas, you have the gamblers, you have sports, you have celebrities, you have sports stars. Everyone's coming into town. I mean, you had to have been around some of these matches, saying, "I can't believe I'm watching this right now." I mean, I know you weren't in the matches because that really wasn't your thing, but I'm sure you were in a foursome where you're just a bystander to, like you said, Tom Fisher walking backwards, or just, I'm sure you're around some of these things.
Well, so I'm brand new to golf, and I have a good friend of mine who's a really good golfer. A good, he's a young guy. He's like my age. He, at the time, was like 19, 20 years old. And in my mind's eye, this is still so vivid after so many years.
Okay.
So I know this. This is a good friend of mine. And I get out of school one afternoon, and I go over to the Las Vegas Country Club. I'm going to hit some balls. And my friend grabs me and he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm going to practice a little bit." He said, "I need a referee. I have a match and I need a referee." I said, "Well, I don't know how to referee. I don't even know I don't know that I can referee. I mean, what does a referee do?"
Right.
He said, "I just need you to walk around with us and just referee." I said, "But I don't even know the rules." And he says, "Well, I have a match with another guy, and it's a one club match. We each get to use one club for all the shots." And I said, "Okay, all right, fine. I'll walk around with you as long as I don't have to do anything."
Right.
So I'm standing on the first tee, and here comes Jim Brown, the football player.
Oh gosh.
Now this is like in the mid 70s. So Jim Brown's been retired, but he retired young. He's still a pretty young guy.
Right.
And he's big. Okay.
Yeah.
He's a big fella. So Jim Brown, his one club is a 3-wood, and my friend's one club is a 5-iron. And they start playing, and I'm walking with them, and we're just all walking, and it's just the three of us. They're playing, and I'm watching. And they play around, and of course, it's a 3-wood's difficult to play all the shots with, of course. So,
Right.
So Jim Brown's having a little bit of a tough time. He's kind of falling behind. There's a few extra bets here and there going on. And when I say extra bets, I'm saying, in the mid 70s, and these bets are like, $3,000 and $5,000 bets, each one of them.
Yeah. Pretty healthy junk. Yeah. Pretty healthy junk going on.
Yeah. So we get to the 16th hole, and Jim Brown hits his 3-wood out there, and it gets out pretty good. And my friend hits his 5-iron out there, and it's out there okay for a 5-iron. And he's got somewhere over 200 yards to the green, and he has to carry a bunker and have the ball land on the green. And of course, back in that day, it was very difficult to hit a 5-iron that far. So my friend hits this shot, and I'm standing, my friend's on the right side of the fairway, Jim Brown's on the left side and about maybe 40 yards up the fairway. My friend hits this 5-iron, and it lands, carries the bunker, lands on the green, and stops on the back of the green. Jim Brown comes running over, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is not a good thing. He's running full steam, yelling at my friend, "You're f***ing me. I know you're f***ing me. I don't know how you're f***ing me, but you're f***ing me." And I'm thinking, I'm going to watch Jim Brown just kill my friend because I can't stop it, right? There's no way. He grabs my friend, kind of ducks. Jim Brown grabs his 5-iron out of his hand, looks at it, and he looks and goes, "I know you're f***ing me. I don't know how you're f***ing me." And he throws the club on the ground and walks away. And I thought, oh my God, thank God. Because I'm thinking, I really thought my friend that was it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they get done playing, and I'm thinking, wow, I'm so glad that's over. I'm never refereeing anything ever again. Right. So my friend looks at me, he says, "You don't mind taking Jim back to the Stardust, do you?"
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah, great. Now I got this little Fiat car, and I got Jim Brown in the car with me. I'm driving back to the Stardust where he was actually in town doing that. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Casino, but in the movie, the guy, De Niro's character that played Lefty Rosenthal,
Ace.
Yeah. He had a sports betting TV show, and Jim Brown was on that show with him.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm giving him a ride back to the Stardust, and Jim Brown the whole way is telling me what a bad guy my friend is, and I shouldn't hang around him, and and I thought, boy, I am never going to referee another match.
Well, yeah.
So
that's definitely one for the ages, and I guess that ended your golf referee career pretty quickly.
That was it. I'm done. I never refereed another match after that.
So that was probably one of the more tense experiences. What about just the random celebrity that? Because I'm imagining that your connection just through your dad, through the industry, all these entertainers coming in, whether they can play or they can't play, all these people coming in. Just when you look back and think about, like, I can't believe I got the opportunity to play golf with this guy. Is there anyone? I'm sure you can go into several different ones, but is there any one that you're thinking, like, I'm so glad I can tell someone, I'm so glad I could say today that I played golf with this guy?
I got to play with a few different guys. I mean, I got to play with a guy named Buddy Greco, who was a good singer, a lounge singer, loved to play golf. He'd call me every morning. I'd get off work at about 3 a.m, and Buddy would call me at 7 and say, "Let's go play golf."
Oh, God.
And finally I said, "Buddy, I can't do that." I played quite a bit of golf with Mac Davis, who was kind of a country singer well-known country singer back in the day. And one of the nicest guys ever. I got to play a lot of golf with him. But the guy who's hilarious that I got to play a lot of golf with is Don Rickles.
Oh my God. You played golf with Rickles?
Yeah. Don Rickles was the worst golfer. He and Jack Lemmon had to be the worst.
Okay.
And not without a possibility of getting better.
Okay. So just got it. Okay.
And Rickles was left-handed, and all he wanted to do was just hit a couple good shots every time he'd go out to play. He didn't even want to make a par. He'd say, "I just want to hit a couple good shots. Can you get me to," he'd kind of talk fast. "Can you get me to hit a couple good shots? I just want to hit a couple good ones. Just a couple good ones." And, and I would try to get him to hit a couple good shots, but it was really difficult.
It was a lot of work.
I can't even tell you how many times. "Don, just drop on over here. Just kick that out." There was a lot of that. And, but he was a great guy. And then he would say, "You're so nice." Right. And really kind of, he wasn't, I wouldn't say he was quiet, but he was very, polite.
Yeah. Well, it was all an act. His act was just, that's been said about him for ages. Just the people in the industry and his friends, and he's big friends with Bob Newhart and all that. A lot of people say just an absolute sweetheart of a guy, but on stage he'll rip anyone apart.
Sure.
Right? He's one of my all time favorites. But
he said to me one day, he said, "What are you doing tonight? We're getting done playing golf." He says, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "Well, I'm not doing anything." And he said, "You want to come to the show?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to come to the show." So he gets me a couple tickets, to go to the show. I grab a friend of mine. He was at the Sahara at the time, the Sahara Hotel. And we go to the show, and, he starts out. When he would come out, they'd play the horns, and
yeah, the bullfighter theme, the bullfighter theme,
the bullfighting thing. Yeah. So they'd play the horns, and he would come out. And within 5 minutes of the show, of him opening, I was thinking, is this the same guy that I played golf with today?
Yeah.
I mean, no, it was hysterical.
Yeah.
And you can't, some of the stuff he would say back then, you can't say.
Oh yeah,
you just can't.
No. But that was one of the big things. People were like, you're not a real comedian, or you're not a real entertainer. You're nobody until Rickles takes the piss out of you.
That's exactly right. And by the way, when he said, "Do you want to go to the show tonight?" I said, "I do, but I'd like to sit in the back."
Of course.
I'm not kidding.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I know
he's the great.
Yeah, he was incredible. I know that we could probably tell Vegas stories forever, but I don't want to gloss over. There's a lot of great things you've done in amateur golf. I don't know. Did you ever have the desire to turn professional?
No, because I started so late.
Yeah.
Right. So, I never had the junior golf deal. I never got to really be I wasn't really a single digit handicap until I was probably 25 or 26.
Wow. That's interesting.
And and I had a good job, and, I had a good job in my family business, and, I was very, it sounds weird, but I was very loyal to my dad.
Doesn't sound weird
which is
at all.
not always the case.
Doesn't sound weird at all.
Well, it's not always the case. And in our business, where, money is your inventory, loyalty is very important. And, in my work career, I've seen a lot of people that were not loyal to the business, or not loyal to their partners, or just not loyal to their friends. And so I kind of felt like, that was a big thing for me, is to, help my dad and, be a good partner, so I didn't really, think about ever, turning professional. And back then, Jack Nicklaus is the leading money winner, and he's making what, $280,000 a year, plus whatever endorsements he had. So, I had a pretty good job. I wasn't making $280,000, but I had a pretty darn good job.
Right. It wasn't the multi-million-dollar endeavor that it is now, or that it could be now.
Yeah.
So, I spoke with Jim Holtgreave on a previous episode. He was an amateur for a long time. Then he actually went and played the Champions Tour for a little bit. And he kind of spoke about that, if you didn't play the regular tour, some of those pros maybe didn't look as keenly upon a lifelong amateur that kind of wanted to just enter the pro ranks at the Champions Tour level. I know, you just said you've never played professionally, but you did play in Open Championships as an amateur. I know you've played in numerous state ones, and I know you've won the Arizona Senior Open, but I think it was back in like 2009 or 2010. I'm just curious, like, did you ever run into experiences where you felt maybe unwelcomed as an amateur playing in open events?
Yes. So, this is kind of a funny deal. So I'm playing in the Arizona Senior Open. It's probably it might be my second time playing in it, but it's a 54-hole event, and on the last day with 4 holes to go, I have a 4-shot lead. So, and I'm playing with 2 other guys, and we're on the 15th hole. And I'll tell you the story. I'll never forget it, and you'll see why. So the 15th hole was a short par 4, and the day before I had knocked it on the green and made a putt for a 2. So I'm going to knock it on the green again. And I'm playing really well, and I got teed up. And in Arizona, the desert golf courses, the tee boxes are kind of small. There's not a lot of grass area.
Yeah.
And so I'm teed up, and the two guys I'm playing with are standing. I mean, they're within 10 feet of where I'm standing, and they're standing on the dirt, and I've got it teed up. And one of the guys that I'm playing with, as I'm getting ready to swing, he says to the other guy, not whispering, he says, we can't let this guy win this tournament. So I back off. I don't look at him. I get back up. I get ready to hit again. He says, we can't let this guy win because he's an amateur. I back off again. And then the fourth time, he does this 3 times. And I'm, I know he's going to run out of lines.
Yeah.
So the fourth time I get back up, and he says, I'm getting ready to pull the club back, right? So, we're ready to go. He says, you know what? I play better for money. Let's play for $100 a hole from here in. Well, now I back off, and I walked over to him, and I said, I'll tell you what, I play better for money too. Let's play for 10,000 a hole from here in. And he just stood there, and I said, yeah, I didn't think so. So let's just go. Let's just finish, and go. So we get to the 18th hole. I'm going to win the tournament. I've got a putt for a birdie. I kneel down to read it. He says to me, come on, just 2 putt and let's get out of here. So I do my thing anyway. And, I walk off the green, and there's a fella, named, John Chafee who played on the tour, and he's a friend of mine, and he congratulated me as I walked off the green. And the guy says, why are you congratulating him? He's an amateur.
Oh God. So,
yeah, I mean, it went all the way. It went all the way to the scoring table where we're doing the scorecards. And he said to me, he goes, you can have the trophy. I'll take the money. I said, well, that's okay, because I'm going to have this trophy a lot longer than you're going to have that money.
Oh, nice.
So that was, I'd have to say that, that's kind of that's a real story, and it has nothing to do with sportsmanship, obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
So,
you've played in, you're switching gears to actually natural and regular amateur tournaments. So you've played in multiple USAMs, and you actually made match play in the 08 USAM at Pinehurst at the spry. Is spry a good word? At the spry age of 52, you make match play. Many, you don't see a lot of mid-ams making it to match play at the USAM. You don't see a lot of them, making it, let alone, a senior amateur technically at the time.
Right.
I know you've won tons of events as we've stated earlier, but what kind of sticks out from that experience of being, in your 50s, making match play in a U.S. amateur? What kind of sticks out from there that you could possibly impart some wisdom or lessons to, seniors or mid-ams that are playing against college kids, whether or not it's at a USGA event or even at their own home club championship or an invitational? Like, how did you mentally get yourself prepared for an experience like that?
It's funny because, as an older guy going into a U.S. amateur, you really have nothing to lose, right? Your future pro career is not depending on your performance, right? So, the kids have a lot of pressure on them to perform well, and to show coaches or agents or whoever, might be hanging around the tournament, or Walker Cup, if they're ready or if they're, playing to get on the Walker Cup, it's a lot of pressure on the kids. And I think sometimes the parents, don't realize how much pressure there is on the kids, and being inside the ropes and playing with the kids a few times a year, you get to, I get to hear different stories or how the kids talk, without their parents right there. And there's a lot of pressure on these kids. And I, it would be great if the parents would, and a lot of parents do, but a lot of parents don't realize how much pressure there is on the kids and how much pressure they're helping to put on their own kids, and it's tough on them. I actually played my second match was against Patrick Reed.
Oh, wow.
And he had his father caddying for him. And, I got to see firsthand kind of and I don't want to be unfair. And Patrick is, I've seen him a few times, but not for many years. And he's always seemed to be a good guy to me. And I don't want to, I know he's got some stuff there with his dad, but
sure.
But I got to see firsthand, a parent like really doing like thought control stuff on their kids. And it kind of shook me up, to be honest with you. It really shook me up. And then actually, Patrick beat me. And then a couple days later, he was playing the semifinals and his dad had bad blisters. And, Patrick said, geez, he came over to me. I was in the gallery and he came over and he said, look, my dad can't make it. He can't walk. And he couldn't. He was
right
60 yards behind. Right. And I said, well, Patrick, give me your bag. I'll carry your bag.
Wow.
He said, really? I said, of course I will. I got a lot of respect for the guy. He's everybody knows now he's a great golfer, but I learned it back then when he beat my brains in. He's really good.
So you have a golf referee background, you have a golf caddy background. You're in all parts of the game, aren't you?
You know what? I've had a lot of great golf has given me a lot of great opportunities, and to meet people and to do different things, and I probably don't take it. There's a lot of senior amateur golfers that are very, very serious about, tournaments and winning the tournaments. And, and I like winning tournaments and I've won a lot of tournaments, but it's got its place. It's got its place. I'm not going to, I don't want to put an over abundance of importance on senior amateur golf.
Yeah.
It's
about the relationships,
it's a lot
about
of fun.
The camaraderie. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of camaraderie to it. And we get to play a lot of great places. No, there's no question about that. And it's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. But, don't get me wrong. I like to play good, and if I get in position, I like to win, but it's not my life,
yeah. You've won the British Senior Amateur, you've won the Canadian Senior Amateur. If you had to pick which one you would recommend senior amateurs to try and go qualify for and play in, just for not just the, obviously the courses change from year to year, and obviously weather can come into factor, probably, both places, whether it's overseas or it's up in Canada. But what would be the one that you would say, hey, you got to go play this once? I know that's a hard decision, but
you know what? It's tough because I'm gonna give you an answer, but what I don't want to I don't want to pick one over another because they're different.
Okay.
I like the 72-hole stroke play of the Canadian Senior Amateur. I like the stroke play better than I like the match play. Match play's not really my favorite.
Okay.
But I will say this. So as you mentioned earlier, I did win the Arizona Senior Open, and then when I won the British Senior Amateur, I'm in the car with my friend Doug Poole. We're driving back towards London to catch our flight home, and Doug said to me, he said, what do you think? He said, do you think this is your biggest win ever? And I said, no, I think the Arizona Senior Open is, because of the field.
Right.
You're beating pros and tour pros and you're beating good players. And Doug said, yeah, but nobody knows you won that tournament. Everybody's going to know you won this tournament. And he was right. The next day I had hundreds of text messages.
Wow.
Hundreds. So from that standpoint, the fact that if you want somebody to know that you've won a tournament or that you've played in a tournament, the British Senior Amateur is the tournament.
That's well said. Yeah. It's got to be a tough. Plus the history over there. I mean, I love going over there and just seeing the. It's just different over there.
Of course, the RNA. They do a fantastic. The RNA and the USGA and the Canadian Golf. Golf Canada. They all do a great job of running their national championships. They all do. They're just really fantastic with it. So from that standpoint, any of those are great tournaments to play in. But I think just from if you're going to play in one, the British Senior Amateur is a pretty good one.
Yeah. Before I have a couple more that I'm going to let you go because I know you probably got a game waiting for you. But I wanted to ask you, you're a member down at the Floridian down here in Palm City. Floridian,
yes.
Was purchased by Jim Crane from Wayne Huizenga. Jim Crane is the owner of the Astros, who are, as we speak, in the ALCS against the Yankees, and as of right now, they're doing well. We just hopefully they keep moving in that direction.
Yes.
But you're in the ownership group of the Astros that took control of the team in 2011. How did that start? I know this is kind of related to golf because you play a lot of golf there at the Floridian, but when someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, you want to own a Major League Baseball team?" And again, this is in 2011 when the Astros were not doing well.
Right.
Where did that start? How much fun has that been in as an addition to your life?
I got to tell you, I mean, it's a dream thing for me. I mean, it's a dream thing for me, and I don't know, I mean, I said this to Jim. I saw Jim Crane the other day, and I just thank him, and I pinch myself every time I think about this. But we were in Houston watching the games the other day, and I'm so grateful that he allowed me to be and when I say a small part, I mean I'm a small part of this deal.
So you own the rosin bag and he owns the field. Is that what you're saying?
Well, he would say that I own the bag, but I don't own the rosin that's in the bag.
Got it. Okay.
So no, you know what? I think I had gone to some baseball games with Jim in Houston prior to 2011. And we talked about, and I played golf with him quite a number of times. And I got, I got friendly with Jim and then, I told him about my experience growing up and being friends with Maury Wills and getting to go down to Maury's house and staying with him while they would be playing at home and, going out on the field in Maury's uniform. Maury would let me put on his uniform and I'd go out at Dodger Stadium before the game on the field. And so I got to do all those things. And I think that, just that Jim being as kind-hearted as he is, when he put the deal together to buy the Astros, he called me up and said, "Is this something that you'd be willing to put any money into?"
Yeah. And
I said, "Yeah, of course I would. Are you kidding me? It's a dream." Now, of course, I'm not in, he basically made a spot for me and some of his other friends to get in this deal. And I'm forever grateful that he did that for me because it's a dream come true.
If you can pick one of pick a moment of the time that you've been involved with the Astros, I mean, obviously, winning a World Series, but, so where were you during the World Series? I mean, have you had moments where you're just like you said, it's a dream come true, but maybe just kind of, crystallize that for some people listening. Like, what experience have you had in Major League Baseball with the Astros because of this, that most of us would be like, I can't believe I get to do something like this? I mean, even spending on the golf course with the guys, or just being around.
You know what?
Yeah.
Not being around the players too much because, the players do their thing and they don't want to be around. We've got a big ownership group and they don't want to be around a whole bunch of old guys that think they know how to play their game.
Sure.
But for me, it's more just the fact that knowing that somehow I'm involved in the thing in a very small way. it's just, and, I put on my Astros hat and I go out to the golf course and everybody, not everybody, but people know, they'll needle me about the Astros or sometimes wish me luck. It's a really neat thing. I guess it's I don't know. It's a vanity investment, but with Jim, it's really a business investment.
Sure.
So, it's fantastic. And I will say that when we were in the World Series with the Dodgers, I went to the first 6 games. And then I had to be in Florida the day after Game 7. So I had to go to Florida the day of Game 7. So when I got there, and I'm staying at the Floridian, we have the game on TV, me and some other friends of mine. And when it got down to the 9th inning, I couldn't stay in the room. I had to go outside. I couldn't watch.
So like father, like son, actually.
Right?
There you go.
How about that story?
There you go.
I had to go outside. And of course, now my friends, Kevin Marsh, who's a great amateur golfer,
yeah.
He was there. He's making fun of me. He had to come out and get me. The game's over. You won. So, oh my gosh, what a relief.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's an amazing thing.
I love that story. And, I know that, the one thing also I wanted to ask you, I know we spoke previously, but this is such a great story. You've played amateur tournaments all over the country, and invariably you're playing as a mid-am or a senior am, and you see these young kids kind of come and go, and some maybe you never see again after they maybe hit their peak playing collegiately, and then some obviously make it to the professional ranks. And as a lifetime amateur, it must be fun for you to see a guy win one weekend. He's got the wife and the kids running out on the green and the trophy and thanking all the sponsors. And meanwhile, in the back of your head, you're thinking to yourself, man, I remember when that guy was a broke college kid that couldn't afford a burger and fries. I mean, can you think back to any of the players that maybe someone would be surprised to hear, like, yeah, that was one of those guys that's now on TV?
Ben, I'll tell you, we've told some stories today, and one of the things for me with these stories and growing up in Las Vegas and seeing people from different parts of the world and different industries, and to do like kind of an evaluation of kind of what makes their personality, right? Yeah. So there's one story that fits that, and I think it's a role model story. For me, it is. And it was a great lesson for me, even though I'm much older than this guy. But I played in the Northeast Amateur in maybe 1994, 93, 94. And I got paired with a guy, and during the round, we decided that we would go to a Boston Red Sox game because we're playing in Rhode Island. It's an hour or so drive. Let's go to the Red Sox game. Okay. So I've got a rental car. This other guy's in college, and he doesn't have a car, so I'm going to drive. And he says to me, hey, can we take my friend along with us? I said, sure. Got a big car. Take a couple guys. So he invites his friend to come with us, and his friend is drinking. And he's drinking beer and he's drinking hard liquor, and he's drinking on the drive up. He's in the back seat, and we get to the game. We buy tickets. We go to the game. He's drinking beer during the game. After the game, we go across the street to a bar and to let the traffic die down. And he has a few drinks. Now, I don't drink. Okay. I just don't drink. I don't drink. I don't have a beer. I don't drink. So anyway, he's drinking. Well, on the way home, on the way back to Rhode Island, he's in the back of the car and he's just getting sick. He's had too much to drink and he's getting sick in the car, and it was a mess. So a few years later, I'm watching a tour event and I'm looking, I thought, that guy looks like the guy that got sick in the back of my car, and I thought, you know what? That's the guy. I know who the guy is. I'm not going to say anything because I like this fella, and I only met him that night and one other time after that, which was years later. I'm going out to Butch Harmon's school in Las Vegas, and I've known Butch for many, many, many years. And I go out there, and he's working on the range with somebody, and I walk up, and Butch says, "Brady, let me introduce you to Stuart Sink." And Stuart Sink turns around and he said, "Did I get sick in the back of your car one night?"
Oh my gosh.
I said, "Yes, you did." I said, "Yes, you did." He said, "Do you know that night changed the trajectory of my life?" He said, I realized that here I am with a guy who owns a hotel in Las Vegas. I'm in the back of his car as a drunk college kid making an idiot out of myself. He said, I want to, if I remember this correctly, he said, a year later, I was married. And a year later than that, we had our first child. He said, that just turned me around. And I thought, you know what? I told him, I said, "Stuart, I've never told anybody that story ever." And he said, "No, it's okay, because it wound up being a good thing. It changed me. It made me realize what I had to do to be successful." And so that's what I got out of it.
Wow.
So when I see college kids that are, not behaving properly, and of course I realize now that I'm older, I know what it takes.
Right.
And you can see who's going to make it and who's going to have a problem. And, but Stuart Sink he's a role model. That guy is top notch in my book.
Yeah. Wow. That's an incredible story.
Yeah.
Wow. Just think if you guys hadn't gone to that game that night. So,
well, he might have, what, it was probably sitting inside of him.
Oh, sure.
He knew what was right, but that night just tipped it for him. That was a tipping point for him. He probably would have had another tipping point, but it's just funny how you cross paths with people in your life and in their life, and people that I never thought I would ever cross paths with.
Of course.
Whether it's Maury Wills, Butch Harmon, probably most of all my wife, who is absolutely wonderful. And if you're a senior and you're playing senior amateur golf and you're playing in a lot of tournaments, chances are you have a very supportive wife. And I know I say that for a lot of guys. I've seen, a lot of guys, whether it's Gene Elliott or Jack Hall, Doug Hansel, Chip Lutz, all these guys that are these great amateur players, they all have very supportive wives. And I can guarantee you, that just I know for me, it just makes all the difference in the world.
Well said. I would have to agree with you. Let me get you out of here on this one. If I was just recently out in Vegas, got to play, Bally High and Paiute and Cascada, had a great time. But if I'm coming out for a golf weekend and I'm hanging with Brady Exber, what does our weekend look like? I want to hear what the Brady Exber experience looks like. Hopefully Jim Brown isn't around. No Jim Brown. But give me an idea. If I need to go do Vegas the right way with a guy that's been there all his life, give me a couple places that I need that I might end up.
You're going to bed early if you're hanging around me. So
okay, all right.
No, I mean,
we're hitting the $4.99. We're hitting the $4.99 buffet at 4:00. Is what you're saying?
That's well, I should say no. Wait a minute. You're not getting home early in the morning. You're going to bed early at night.
That's what I mean.
No, yeah. Well, I'm not into the blue light. The blue plate special yet. I'm not into that. But
okay.
I'm not that old yet, but, being around the casino business for so many years, all my life, I very rarely go down the strip, very rarely. So, for me, I'll have people call me and say, "Hey, can you help me with a tee time?" Yeah, sure. Well, it's going to be hot, so we want to play early. All right. What time would you like to play? 8:00. Okay. I'm going to say 70% of the people cancel.
Right.
They don't make the tee time.
Yeah, they can't do it.
Yeah, they're not thinking. So, I don't go clubbing. I kind of keep the tourist Vegas scene separate. Occasionally, if some people come in to town, maybe we'll do something, but I keep it pretty separate. But along those lines, I will tell you this: I got my wife got an email on her email account from a guy who was coming over from Scotland, and the email said, "Hey, I got your email address from so and so over here in Scotland, and he said to get a hold of you. I'm coming to town for a bachelor party. I've got 11 guys with me. We want to play golf 3 days, but only 2 guys are bringing their clubs, so the other 9 they'll have to rent clubs.
Right.
So get us some tee times for that, and then take us out on the strip. We'll be there for a week, and take us out on the strip, and we want to So basically, he wanted me to plan his bachelor party for him. So I do get those requests every once in a while.
I didn't realize you were in that business, Brady, but okay.
I didn't either, Ben. I didn't either. No, I'm not sure what that guy did on his bachelor party because I wasn't part of it, but I did get a request to plan one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Brady, this was this is absolutely fantastic. I feel we left probably 3 or 4 hours of stories on the cutting room table, but I really do appreciate you joining. I know that a lot of tournaments in your future and things you're going to accomplish, and hopefully we'll get to catch up again another time. And thank you again for stopping by here at the back of the range.
Ben, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on with you. Thank you very much.
And there you have it. Special thanks to Brady Exber for joining us this week here at the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. Don't forget, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Everything you need is at thebackoftherange.com. Enjoy Thanksgiving with your family and friends, and we'll see you again next week here at the Back of the Range.